Hey, I'm Yanis, and I've been solo developing a 2D platformer as a hobby for 6 entire years, starting from when I was a silly little teenager to the present day. I've made tons of mistakes along the way, and I've learned just as many lessons, which I want to share with you today by taking a quick tour through my history making games. So if that sounds interesting to you, well, let's just get started. So let's start with the beginning. The first game I ever attempted making was also a platformer. Here it is. You can see my artistic skills were, yeah. But this game is very simple, it's very short, it only has 2 levels. There's some weird power-ups, these ones that make you run faster or jump higher, and there's also this skull, which I gotta say it was pretty ahead of its time. But yeah, the gameplay, the wall jumping is really clunky, and half the time you get stuck in the walls like that. It was pretty good for a first game, I'll say. It's functional. And I actually had a friend of mine play it. She was actually booting it up quite a bit, even though it was really bad. You know what, let's see if... Hey, yo, Dimitri, what's up, my man?
Έλα, τι θες?
Yeah, so I've been making this video about, my history making games, and I was wondering if you wanted to replay the first game I ever made, Remember the one that...
Θες πάλι γάμο το Χριστός να σε έχεις παίξει τα αρχίδια με το γαμμένο παιχνίδι στα τελευταία 10 χρόνια, πάλι μαλάκα, όλο το παιχνίδι μου και το παιχνίδι μου. Έλα ρε, καινούργια βάρσια, μπορεί να τα δοκιμάσεις τα αρχίδια μας, πάλι παράμπα.
So yeah, there's not too much to talk about the first game. It really didn't have many goals or ambitions, but I actually ended up deciding that platformers too hard for me. They have gravity, they have physics. It's too complicated for me, and I was also really into Isaac at the time. So I thought, you know what? Why not just make a top-down shooter? It's easier. You just move up, down, left, right. There's no physics. You just shoot things. It's great. I also decided, hey, why not make it space-themed so I don't have to make environments? And since it's gonna be bullet hell, I'm just gonna call it Give Me Some Space.
Oh my god,
yeah.
bro.
So what happened to Give Me Some Space? Surprise, I dumped the project. I'll explain why I dumped the project with an analogy. So my game, that game, Give Me Some Space, suffered from the Ratatouille soup principle. Okay, bear with me. So I don't know if you've played this, but there was a Ratatouille video game. And at some point late in the game, there was this quick time minigame where you have to select the correct ingredients. And then this little rat, throws it in the soup. The thing is, the ingredients get completely randomized. So what ends up falling in the soup, it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, the soup probably didn't taste that well. So what does this have to do with my game? Well, I actually acted a lot like the red. Imagine the soup is the game, and then the ingredients are the features. And I was like, what if I add this onion, this tomato? And what about this arcade artichoke? What about this Isaac carrot? I put it all in the soup. I wasn't even tasting the soup. I was just putting it in the soup. I was like, this is so much fun. I'm just putting stuff in the soup. It's so great. And then I tasted the soup. But it was really bland. The problem was, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a vision. I wasn't thinking whether the features I was adding were gonna make a coherent game. And I also didn't know how to program at all. Like, my code looked kind of like this. Probably the most outrageous design mistake that I made was that the game was a static arena twin-stick shooter, which means that there was no level design. It was just one room with enemies coming from the sides. That's it. But then I wanted to make it a roguelike. So the problem is you can't make a roguelike without any randomly generated content, basically. Like, the only random thing were the items, and if I wanted to make it playable, I'd have to make hundreds of items, which at that point, I couldn't do that because I didn't know how to code properly. I eventually realized that after working for it for more than a year, if you're gonna learn something from this failed project of mine, one, know what you're capable of, and then the second thing, which I think is way more important, always plan ahead. And I know you may think, oh, I hate planning. Planning is boring. In some ways it is, and I used to think this as well. Why would I ever plan? It takes extra time, and most of the time your plans never work out anyways, so why even bother? Well, planning, what it does is it separates 2 different things. If you decide not to plan, what you end up doing is you're sort of planning in between making, so you're sort of mixing these very different tasks together. And you're bound to make some mistakes. Focus on the main things, the structure, ignore the details. Get a rough sketch out. And after you do that, then you can focus on making and all the details and all that stuff. It's so worth it. that little time investment that you put for planning, you will save 100 times that time. You can overplan, and you should avoid that. You should actually do things. You shouldn't just plan. And the other thing is, likely things will change over time. Nothing goes 100% according to plan. That's why you improvise also. Maybe your plan doesn't go 100% like you wanted, but it might go like 60%, 70%, 90%. That's still like great. All I'm saying, if you're really serious about making a game, you have to plan. Hey, if you made it to this part of the video and you've been enjoying it so far, it would really help the channel a lot if you could hit like, or even subscribe if you're interested in more insightful or fun content like this. This channel is basically brand new, so any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now back to the video. So after stopping work on Give Me Some Space, I made a couple more experimental games, but I dumped those pretty quickly. And at that point, the only thing I was sure of is that I didn't really want to work on a top-down shooter game anymore. But I also didn't really know what I wanted. Hollow Knight, I played the game, I liked it, wow. But what I noticed with Hollow Knight and some other games I played like Spelunky was that there were many little details in the polish of these games that I just really appreciated. Just having made sort of a game, I started to notice all these little details and all the polish and all the love that was being put into games like Hollow Knight. I was thinking, these little details, they really show how much love and care was really put into these games. That passion that I saw is what sort of weirdly motivated me to make my own platformer. And so we go back. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? So I took this, I deleted it, I started over, and I actually watched this tutorial on platformer movement from Sean Spalding, who I still watch to this day, by the way. And even now, this movement is the bare bones foundation of the movement in Cosmic Pebble, which is the game I am currently still working on. So you might be wondering, what happened in this, 6-year time span? Well, obviously it's too much to cover in one video, but let's just focus on the beginning of the project, where things were just very volatile. The starting idea I had for the movement of the character, aside from jumping and wall jumping, was sprinting, a sort of charged jump, and an 8-directional dash. So is this movement still in my game? No, it's not. I removed the charge. I still think the idea was really cool. Basically, the idea was you'd get a huge boost of movement, either vertically or forwards, when you were on the ground. I still think you can make it work, but the problem with my implementation with it was you could only use it when you were on the ground. So that made it really one-dimensional, because it gives you so much space, it's 100% the best option to use when you're on the ground. It's your most powerful move by far, so there's no thinking about it. Very boring and pointless at the end of the day, because if you have a mechanic that works the same way every single time and there's no nuance to it, there's no point of it being there. The other problem was with the level design. If you're making a game that involves a lot of level design, you need to make sure that the movement of the player actually is complemented by the level design. Say you're making the next Spider-Man game. Everything about his movement is giant, he makes giant jumps, giant swings around the city. Everything about the movement is big, and so it requires a lot of room to shine. So if you go ahead and you play Spider-Man in, like, I don't know, a mansion with tight corridors, well, what is he gonna do? What is bro gonna do? He's gonna swing from the kitchen to like the toilet, whatever. So, obviously it's not gonna be that fun. It might sound obvious, but I did actually make this mistake. The charge jump, it requires a lot of space, and I was making my levels pretty claustrophobic, like reminiscent of precision platformers. So it really didn't work out very well. So you want your game to be coherent, right? So the systems and mechanics of the game need to complement each other. And this is universal. It also applies to level design. When you try to add something new, it's good to ask yourself, does this make sense for my game? Will this be fun and engaging? Will it add depth to the game? Will it be interesting like 10 hours in? If not, how do I make it interesting? Maybe the level design can complement it and make it, interesting. And then once you have a plan, then you can test it and prototype it until you get something that feels right to make your game feel like it has a proper identity, right? And since we mentioned prototyping, that was basically the phase that I was in right then and there with my game. I actually didn't know it back then. I didn't know that I was prototyping, but I actually was, which is kind of giga sad if you think about it. I removed the charge jump, but I was pretty happy with the dash, so I decided to I don't know if you know about Celeste, but it's a pretty popular platformer, and yes, the main mechanic it has is an 8-directional dash. The exact same thing I had in my game. I played Celeste and I realized, wow, this game is basically a masterpiece. I knew there's no way I can compete with Celeste. I have to cut the dash. So you can learn another thing from this. Know your competition. Don't make your game too similar to a game that is already super successful. Because the players will call your game just a clone, and then we'll call you a clown. You know? Obviously be inspired by games. That's extremely important, right? A lot of players don't want something completely different. They want something familiar. But you also can't make something that is too familiar, right? It's tricky. It's a balance. And I myself am still heavily inspired by Celeste. It's the game's main inspiration still. And you can see a lot of similarities, especially when it comes to the game structure, which is basically the same. The level design. I take a lot from Celeste, and that is quite a problem because there's probably going to be people that are going to say, oh, there's another Celeste clone. It's just that the gameplay loop is very similar. Hopefully that hits the spot of good familiarity, but different enough. But, you know, I am a little bit scared of it. So you may be asking, well, if you remove the dash and you remove the charge jump, what's the moveset? Well, I replaced the dash with the double jump, the classic, and then I replaced the charge jump with an all-new thing, the most important mechanic in my game, the boomerang. You can aim it and you can throw it and it interacts with the environment in, you know, interesting ways. That does mean that my game is a pure platformer that requires aiming. Those are the main mechanics, but the neat thing is that the boomerang actually has multiple purposes. Dual purpose design, who doesn't love that, right? When you throw the boomerang in the air, it makes you float a little bit. If you remember in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, the twirl move that you do and you do a little spin, it's similar to that, but even more powerful. The boomerang is actually tied to a cooldown. So you can use it as many times as you want, as long as you got it. It's a 1-second cooldown. You can use it to save yourself. You can even use it to skip entire parts of levels. It's that mechanic that is supposed to make my platformers stand out alongside the level design. It's supposed to give players a lot of skill expression, a lot of freedom. And if you're wondering what that looks like, here's a taste from the trailer. Which brings us to the present. Now you may be wondering, bro, what happened during the 5 years that you just skipped? Well, the answer is I just kept working on the game. Very slowly but surely. I am developing this game as a hobby, and I'm still a student. I still have university in the background, and I used to have school. There's large periods of time where I don't even touch the game. During vacation or during exams. There was even a year before entering university that throughout the entire year, I didn't even touch the game. I'm not even sure what's so special about this game, but whatever it is, it has kept me dedicated for 6 entire years, which still shocks me. Throughout all this time, I have made a lot of progress, a lot of things. The game now has 10 levels, which they're pretty large except for the first 2. The game has 115 collectibles. I've done my best to make the game look decent despite my actual lack of artistic abilities. I've made a soundtrack for the game, and I've even made an entire story, which I sincerely poured my heart and soul into. And it actually took more than 2 years for me to finish it. But that's a story for another video. So what's next for the game? I'm still working on the game, and it is actually currently on Steam. If what you've seen intrigued you, it would just mean the world to me if you could drop by and hit the game with a wishlist. It's a couple clicks, but it really is the best way to support the game. So what about the game's state? Well, it's content complete. Right now I'm basically working on polish. I also recently added Steam achievements and Steam leaderboards, which has actually made me really interested in releasing a demo for the game again. So if you'd like to try a demo for the game and compete on leaderboards, you'll be able to do that. When will the game release? That's the big question. You know the answer. I mean, I don't like that question. No developer likes that question, just know that. But, you know, I can't say. What I'm aiming for is early next year, but you never know with these things. So I'm not making any promises, but hey, if you're interested in the game, or you're interested in maybe the demo that I'll put out, or the Discord server that I'm currently making, and or if you want to just stay tuned to what's happening, the best way to do that right now is to just follow this channel. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.